Nick, we got some big rumors coming our way about the Switch 2 lineup for this year via Nate the Hate. He just posted a new podcast in which he blows out basically Nintendo's entire lineup for the year, according to them, of course, because these are technically rumors, but when it comes to Nate the Hate, he's a very credible source, and I believe, essentially everything he's putting out there. So let's talk about this in depth. Of course, make sure to check out the full video, link to the description below for the full 90-minute podcast. So lots of great information in there that we won't be touching on here. With that out of the way, let's touch on the key points here, Nick, and we'll go through this real quick, then we'll circle back to the main things we want to discuss. I know there's one thing in particular you really want to discuss, Nick. So, first up, no direct until June. No general direct until June. I know a lot of people are going to be upset by that, but, at this point, it's not that far away. Second, though, even more people might be upset by this, no 3D Mario this year. That's right, they're spending more time to polish it up. It may be coming out next year, but this year, it won't be coming out. We may not even see it this year. So, but there is a big game that could replace it, which we'll be touching on in a few seconds here, so hang tight. We also got, basically, Nintendo's entire summer lineup, in which key titles coming out are going to be Rhythm Heaven, Fire Emblem's Fortune's Weave, Splatoon Raiders, which, it was expected, but a surprise entry here being some kind of Switch 2 version of Switch Sports. Maybe Switch 2 Sports, or maybe a Switch 2 edition of Switch Sports. We don't know exactly, but I'm excited for it. That was a top-selling game on Switch, so hey, that makes sense. But here's the big one, Nick. Huge one that we didn't know about coming this summer, apparently, according to Nate. A brand new Star Fox game. Brand new. Apparently classic style. Visuals are great. Apparently has online multiplayer. And get this, Nick. It's going to be revealed in April. That's just days away. Or, I mean, the month is just days away. And that follows up well with the Fox McCloud announcement, right?
Yep.
In the Super Mario Galaxy movie. So, alright, two more things we're going to talk about this. There was another surprise entry, kind of, being a Pikmin 4 Switch 2 edition coming out at sometime this year. I don't think we had a release window for it, but Nate thinks it'll come out sometime this year. But here's the big holiday title, Nick. With no 3D Mario, Nate the Hate is saying something that's been rumored or, talked about for what feels like generations at this point now. An Ocarina of Time remake. Now, Nate doesn't know what the scope of this is. He doesn't know what exactly this means. Is it more like, the 3DS version and that's like a light visual upgrade? Or is it going to be a whole reimagined like Resident Evil 4 Remake? We just don't know. So, Nick, we got big things to talk about here. We won't touch on all of those. What do you want to start with first?
I mean, what's the obvious for me? Come on, Star Fox. Like, that's the thing I want to talk about. And like Nate reported on, we didn't have too much information for it. Like, I'm just happy that we got some sort of a rumor leak confirmation that something Star Fox is happening right after the hot press of Fox McCloud being in the Mario movie. Like, I'm ecstatic. I can't believe it's actually happening.
Yeah, I wouldn't have until yesterday, because as soon as we saw Star Fox in the movie, I'm like, well, obviously, there's something big coming. At least a game, maybe a movie spin-off or something else, right? But I think the game made the most sense, and it seems like they are really leaning into the synergy this time. Whatever the case may be, I'm a big Star Fox fan. I'm excited. I love Fox McCloud and the crew, so I'm thrilled about this news, but I do say that in the sense, or with the hesitation that, I also don't love every Star Fox game. I think that series is like all over the map in quality, right? I'm actually one of the few, though, who ended up liking Star Fox Zero. It had its flaws, of course, but I think it had a good premise there in some respects, because it was, in many senses, a pretty classic style Star Fox game, which apparently this one is going to be too. Classic style Star Fox. Now, that being said, what exactly does that mean? Is it going to be purely corridor based? Is it going to have all range mode like Star Fox 64 and Star Fox Zero? Could they, are they going, the assault route, or there's going to be maybe more emphasis on story, and, character dynamics? I don't really know, but it has me excited, and I really hope that they are giving this game the attention, the love it deserves, right? I don't want them to fart out some quick Star Fox game just to cash in on the movie appearance. I want this to be amazing. And with it having online multiplayer, it maybe could be that. That could be the shot on the arm that the series needs, as I don't think it's ever had online multiplayer. I think the closest we had was Star Fox 64 3D, where you could play, I think, only local with your friends, right?
It was only locally, yeah, that's correct. I don't believe any other Star Fox game had online multiplayer. And my favorite for multiplayer out of all the Star Fox games is Star Fox Assault. I loved playing the multiplayer in that. You can get on your feet or out of your R-Wing, you can jump into a Landmaster. So it had a lot of variety to it. My biggest hope for this game is that I hope it focuses on somewhat of co-op. I hope you can play with multiple friends and go through these missions all as an actual team.
It's such an obvious idea, considering the
Yeah.
entire game is built around co-op with your 3 CPU buddies, right? So Nate said it had online multiplayer. I forget if he specified any more than that. I read into that being it would be a competitive style thing, but I do wonder if there could be a co-op component, where you are playing with your friends in these same missions. That could be amazing. I'm not entirely sure how that would work if it's a corridor style shooter, whereas that would make more sense for an all range mode. But here's an idea, like, what if each player has like a separate corridor they're flying through that converges at points, so you see each other like cross each other's paths before you converge into an all range mode at the end. I freaking already love this idea that I just came up with.
Yeah, you have so many options with that. You could even all start on like the edge of like Corneria, and then you get to the center of the stage, and like you said, it's the all range mode, and then you go for the boss fight.
Right. Like, how cool would that be? I mean, you can even have like missions that break it up into different segments like that. Maybe, for instance, you're all flying to like a Katina style arena through your corridors. You arrive at Katina, you have to blow up a base or something to get inside. Then it goes back in your corridors for each person. Each person's doing their own like quick objective though, and then you reconvene at the boss or whatever. And maybe things you do along the route can make it easier or harder for your teammates. Like, for instance, if Fox McCloud, and this is like, a wave of enemies, like, they're gonna go after Falco, and so that could be a really interesting dynamic that really switches things up. But I want to be clear on this is purely speculative.
Yeah.
I have no idea if there's gonna be any co-op at all. My gut reaction is probably not. It's probably gonna be a more back to basics approach, just to kind of test the waters. But with it having online multiplayer, who really knows at this point? So
yeah, it's exciting just to have somewhat of a confirmation that something Star Fox is happening right after the movie reveal. Like, I'm just happy that he's actually going to be sticking around for a lot longer. My biggest hope is, or biggest fear is, I hope they don't go back to Star Fox 64 once again, because we've already played the game so many times. But if they need to do it to kind of reintroduce people to Star Fox, it's like, yeah, by all means, I guess that's going to be the way to do it. Because even last night, or I guess right after Fox was announced, I was like, oh, like, I want to see what's on the eShop for Star Fox. And I looked on the eShop, and it's only like Starlink Battle for Atlas. Like, that's the only thing on the eShop that shows up. It's the DLC for Starlink Battle for Atlas. I'm like, they need to get something on here for Fox.
It's been 10 years since the last true Star Fox game, ignoring Starlink. Even that was quickly approaching 10 years ago as well. So yeah, it's time. And Nick, I do wonder, given the timing of all this, is there a chance this is based on the movie version, that we're going to get movie Fox McCloud here, possibly voiced by Glenn Powell? I doubt that's going to happen, but wouldn't that be crazy if they actually went full in on the synergy there?
That would be insane. I mean, if they want to keep this to somewhat of a budget, I think you probably have to leave big name actors out of it. But like, that'd be insane if that's the synergy that they're going with.
Like, I feel like, man, if they want Star Fox to be back in a big way, like, you don't go budget on this. You gotta go all out, Especially because Star Fox 64, when it came out, I remember like I think they made a marketing point of it, or at least in my head they did, of like how cinematic it felt. Like, it kind of felt like almost Nintendo's take on a PlayStation game, if that made sense. Like, they made the best they could of a cartridge. You had all the voice acting, you had the really high action focused gameplay and the cinematic cutscenes, like they had the Independence Day level,
They did. Not to mention they have the Rumble, which is like one of the first games to use that, so that's a big deal.
It was the first game to use it, at least on the Nintendo front, which I think they practically invented the home use of Rumble. So, yeah. So I'm really excited for this. I can't wait to see it, and we're going to be thrilled waiting for that announcement now, which apparently they was suggesting could just be shadow dropped, like via Nintendo Today, or like a random Twitter post or whatever, because again, the General Direct isn't until June, presumably. So, yeah. All right, let's go move on real quick. We will get to Ocarina of Time very soon. I just want to quickly touch on the lineup that we know about for the summer, otherwise, including Rhythm Heaven, Fire Emblem, and Splatoon Raiders, and also the Pikmin 4 Switch Edition, which could come out at some other point throughout the year. Nick, any thoughts on any of those specifically?
I'm just excited that these have somewhat of a like concrete, or at least again coming from Nate, that this is kind of looking like the summer lineup for Switch 2, because and Switch 1 with Rhythm Heaven, because prior to this, like, I think the only game that we have a confident or concrete release date next is Yoshi, and that's really it. So like, to see that we have stuff coming up right out after that and right after the Mario movie, it gives me a little bit more excitement to look forward to for the Switch 2. But yeah, Rhythm Heaven, I'm probably going to pick up. Fire Emblem, I think we're going to pick up. And Splatoon Raiders is probably at the top of my list, right next to Star Fox.
Yeah, I need to know more about that game before I can really decide if I should be hyped for it or not. But also, I forgot to mention Switch 2 Sports in there as well, or whatever that ends up being, which could be exciting as well, at least if you're into that type of game, which I am. That soccer game was amazing. That soccer game was so freaking fun in that game.
I got it when it was on sale for like $20, and that's the thing. They need to have more sports in it. I think that's the thing, and that's what you can add with with the Switch 2 edition.
Bring in the resort sports, you know?
Yeah.
Like, they only had, I think, one before from it, being the sword fighting minigame. There's so much more you can bring in. You know, give us table tennis finally, you know? There's a lot they could do, so I'm optimistic for it. So I will say, you know, that's a fairly varied lineup so far, though I'm not like super hyped for a couple of those titles, but I don't need to be. Like, there's enough there for like I think pretty much everyone, and that's not even accounting for the fact again of the big heavy hitters we have now potentially. Star Fox, if you want to consider that one, I do, and then of course Ocarina of Time remake. Yeah. So we already know, you know, I was already expecting this. No 3D Mario this year. Not a huge surprise for me. We just got DK Bonanza last year. I'm fine waiting a little bit longer, make it as good as you need to be. But Ocarina of Time remake, like this is the kind of thing that's, as I mentioned, has been like kind of floating around as an idea forever. And it's like, is Nintendo ever going to finally do it? And now we're seemingly getting a confirmation, or close to confirmation. It hasn't been revealed yet again. But unfortunately, Nate had no other details beyond it being just a remake. So we don't even know what that means, because it's technically already been remade once on the 3DS, which was basically a visual remaster. It had some other tweaks to the game, otherwise it was very faithful. So Nick, I guess when you hear this, what are you expecting and what are you hoping for? Like, what do you want from an Ocarina of Time remake coming this holiday season, presumably?
Yeah, if it really is that big, hard-hitting holiday game from Nintendo, I'm expecting it to be on a level of, hopefully, I mean, my expectations and hopes are kind of colliding at the same time. I think I'm expecting and hoping that it's going to be something like a Final Fantasy VII remake, where they completely go back to the drawing board for this, and it feels like a modern game. Because if you compare like Final Fantasy original on the PlayStation 1 to Final Fantasy VII Remake on PlayStation 4, they're like completely different games. Like the structure's there, like the story beats are still there, the characters are still there, but it feels and looks completely different. So that's my hope for this, especially with Nate saying that this is going to be like the big holiday game. I really think they're going to go all out for this.
Yeah, I hope that they do. Like, this game could look amazing. Like, it could finally realize the dream of what I had for that initial GameCube Zelda game, you know, where we saw Link and Ganondorf fighting.
Oh, yeah!
Only, of course, it will look, you know, much better now. Probably more akin to the Wii U Zelda.
The Wii U one, that's what I was thinking.
Which also looked amazing. If they can make it look like that, like, really up the cinematics. The thing is, I replayed Ocarina of Time a few years ago for one of its anniversaries, and I think it's still a very good game. But also, you know, there are elements of it that do feel dated. And, you know, I'm torn. On the one hand, I'm one who, I don't love remakes in general, because you still have the original games. They're still, by and large, good. It was a good game originally, typically. And it's like, man, I don't know if I love the idea of, like, either, you know, of like remaking them. So now you have like, because what happened with like the RE4 remake, right? Which is on the one hand fairly faithful, but also changes quite a bit too at the same time. Like it's faithful to the overall idea. They kind of like split the fan base in half now, where like before almost everyone was unified, like, oh, Resident Evil 4 is a great game, you know, but now people are like, that game was trash, it's amazing now, or you know, or vice versa, you know, the original game was amazing, this new one like misses the point, right? And I'm a little fearful that happened in Ocarina of Time. And it's like, do we really need that? At the same time, though, I'm like, if you're going to remake it, I just want them to go the distance with it. Like, you know, really kind of reimagine things. Because that was the first 3D Zelda. I still think, in a sense, like, it offers some of the grandest ideas of the series. And I think it'd be so cool if they could, like, better match those ideas with the scope they could make of a game these days, you know? Maybe add, you know, maybe make Hyrule Field a little bit bigger. Add more things to do in it. You know, make it feel like, so it's a little bit less of a hub and spoke model and more, you know, natural formula.
For sure.
Yeah, more of a natural formation. That way, you know, because in the game, like, basically Hyrule Field is like a big circle. There's little tiny pathways that branch off from it, right? So maybe they could have like different entrance points into different regions or something. I don't know. I'm just speculating. Like, I don't know if going full Breath of the Wild on this is the best idea either. And I don't think you could with how the story works. But I do wonder if there's like a middle ground in there where you can match some of the more openness, at least to the gameplay style of Breath of the Wild, with the more traditional story and linear sense of gameplay in Ocarina of Time. So, I think RE4 Remake is probably a good baseline, you know, where it is overall true, but they do modernize in some ways, even if people may disagree with all those modernizations. Like, I think that's a kind of a good scope area, which I think is similar to your Final Fantasy VII comparison.
So, I haven't played RE4 Remake, or even the original, but with Final Fantasy VII Remake, like, the combat is completely different. At least from gameplay that I've seen for Resident Evil, and you can speak on this, it looks like it's typically, or fairly similar gameplay when you're playing as Leon. it's a bit more actiony. Not like 5 and 6 Resident Evil actiony, but like if you look at the combat or gameplay in Resident Evil 7 Remake compared to the original one, it's turn-based versus like action. Like it's completely different. Even though they do have elements where you can slow down the combat when you look at your menus and whatnot, which I'm a huge fan of, but it's completely different from the original game. But this is going to be the first Zelda game that we're getting, a first 3D Zelda game that we're getting post Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild. I know we've gotten like the remakes and we've gotten the Zelda spin-off game as well, but this is really going to be the first Zelda back in 3D since Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild. So it really is interesting to see how Nintendo's kind of going to approach this remake.
Yeah, I really am curious. I mean, I really do think the most hype one would be like, you know, the style remakes we're talking about, where like it's a reimagining of what Ocarina of Time could be. If it's just a straight up, I mean, my biggest fear is it's just an upgraded port of the 3DS version of Ocarina of Time, right? Here it is again, slightly better models, slightly better textures. Like it'll still be a great game. I mean, I say I'm fearful. Like on the one hand, sometimes I'm still divided on this, Nick. Like if they do that right, that could also look amazing. If it looks like Metroid Prime 4 remake, Metroid Prime 1 remake, yeah, if they do it to that style, like it could be great too. I do think though it'd be way more exciting if they're like we're rethinking everything about this game, right? Like it's still the Ocarina you know, but we're reimagining the world, reimagining like the boss fights, like. I still think Ocarina of Time had, at least for its time, one of the coolest boss fights I'd ever played. Like, when Ganondorf turns into Ganon, like, that was freaking epic.
Yeah,
that might
be
a little
awesome.
quaint these days, like, I think they could really, like, make that arena even bigger. Maybe you have towers crumbling around you as it's happening, like, they could really just crank it all the way up. And I think it'd almost be a big missed opportunity if they're not going that route. Not those ideas specifically, but you know what I mean? Like, rethinking things,
Again, to Nate's point, if this is the big holiday title for Nintendo, I think they have to go the distance. I really think they have to make it a full-scale, full remake, and something that's not like the Wii U days, where even though I loved the, I don't know if you want to call it remake, port, HD version of Wind Waker, but that game already looked great, so it's like, it was just cool having it on a modern platform playing Wind Waker on Wii U. But yeah, this game, I want it to look like, and I want it to feel like a modern game.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm pretty sure, I don't remember any offhand, but I'm pretty sure there were even some discarded ideas for it too, that they could bring back. Like, I believe there were, like, there may have even been, I could be making this up, I believe there were even, grander plans for the time travel element, because you really, if you're playing, like, the critical path, to my memory, you don't even need to change forms all that often, between older and younger Link. So they could maybe play that up a little bit more. There was only one dungeon that even required it, I think, and just, like, one time, maybe twice. And so they could really, like, increase that focus, make it, so you are having to puzzle out things across 2 generations a little bit more so. But then again, you run the risk of making it annoying too, right?
Yeah.
But, maybe there's ways that can improve that. Like, maybe you don't have to head to the Temple of Time at some point every time to change forms, maybe there's other ways. I mean, I'm saying stuff without thinking all the way through. Yeah. Like, Temple of Time's iconic, obviously, but you know what I'm saying. Like, I just want them to rethink everything, and one thing though I do know, Nick, they need to keep the Z target sound. The Z target sound is iconic. They cannot mess that up.
I can't even make the sound. How it's like, right?
It goes like zing or zing.
Zoom.
Yeah, you were closer than I was actually. So, all right, Nick, that is basically all the major stuff. Is there anything else you want to say real quick before we wrap it up, or?
I mean, Star Fox and Ocarina, like, it feels like we're back in the N64 days, so I can't be any happier than that.
Oh man, you're so right. That's so exciting. Like, yeah, I'll be honest, I've been pretty lukewarm about the Switch 2 lineup so far, especially, moving ahead. It's like there's not a whole lot on the horizon I'm really excited for, but Star Fox and Zelda, that gets me amped up again, you know? Especially coming off the hype of the Mario Galaxy movie, this could be huge, Like, I feel like we could be entering a new wave of hype for the Switch 2, which I kind of feel like it could use a shot in the arm right now. And then with all these other titles that kind of fill in the gaps between them, I think they may be sitting at a good place, so this ends up being right. So, yeah, I think that's pretty much all we got, right, Nick?
Yeah, again, Star Fox and Ocarina, like you said, I think this is going to be a bright future for the Switch 2, so I'm excited.
Well, shout out to Nate the Hate for giving us more hope for the future of the Switch 2. Make sure to check out the full podcast link in the description below for even more details on all this, plus the rest of the year lineup. They even speculate about, the possibility of GTA 6 coming to Switch 2. So definitely check it out. Nate's a great person and has a lot of good information. So let's hope this all comes true, Nick, because I need at least 2 of these announcements. So.
Yeah, I do too.
All right. Well, with that, everyone, thanks so much for watching. Stay tuned in GameXplain for more on the Switch 2 and the Star Fox movie, the Star Fox game, and the Super Mario Galaxy movie. And of course, click subscribe if you haven't already. With that, we'll catch you later. Bye, everyone.